These days, you often hear about car brands attempting to push themselves upmarket, chasing higher profit margins and increasing the desirability of their model ranges. A lot of manufacturers even have their very own dedicated luxury offshoot. Toyota have Lexus, Hyundai have Genesis, Stellantis have Walking, and Ford have Lincoln. Provided you live in North America or China. But in Europe, Ford didn't have anything like that to try and elevate their blue-collar image. So in the mid-2010s, they launched their very own in-house luxury division, Vignale. Allow me to give a quick history lesson. Vignale actually began in 1948 as a small Italian coach builder who would go on to produce bodies for the likes of Lancia, Maserati, and even Ferrari. Come the 60s though, the business had started to struggle, and it was sold on to one Alejandro Di Tommaso, before he offloaded it to Ford a short while later in 1972. And under Ford's ownership, they proceeded to do basically nothing with it, aside from a couple of concept cars. Meanwhile, Ghia, another Italian coach builder that Ford had bought from Di Tommaso, had a much bigger presence in the Ford empire. The Ghia badge denoting the top trim level of countless Fords for over 30 years. Eventually though, the Ghia name would be phased out and then finally retired in 2010. And that essentially was the gap Vignale would fill. But this time, it wouldn't simply just be a trim level, it would be its very own dedicated luxury sub-brand. Vignale models would be loaded with all the optional extras from the lower trims, receive special paint finishes, brown, quilted leather and noise cancellation technology on the inside, and each car would be shipped off to Ford's Vignale Centre in Spain for some 100 extra quality control checks, apparently. But not only that, Ford also wanted to focus on the ownership experience. To try and rival the likes of Lexus customer service, Ford set up dedicated Vignale lounges within their dealerships, and each owner would receive access to special events, complimentary car washes and personalised service, including 24-hour access to their very own relationship manager. Which, let's face it, you're gonna need if you just spunk 35 grand up the wall on a Mondeo instead of buying a BMW like a normal person.
Have you spent all that money on fancy fucking crisps? You twat.
But anyway, in 2015, the Mondeo would be the first car to actually receive the Vignale treatment in both four-door and estate forms. And the general consensus at the time seemed to be, it was alright. The chrome trim and special grille were welcome visual additions, while the noise cancelling and fancy leather seats elevated the experience on the inside. But on the whole, it appeared a bit half-baked, thanks to the inconsistent fit and finish and material choices serving as a constant reminder it was still just a Mondeo. Nothing wrong with that usually, but at the prices they were charging, it started to become one. Undeterred, Ford continued to roll out Vignale badge versions of the S-Max People Carrier and the Cougar and Edge SUVs. But again, it was a similar story. Close, but no cigar, according to the motoring press at least. In response to those criticisms, Ford said those initial Vignale cars were compromised because the vehicles that they were based on were already halfway through their life cycles, and the next cars would be better as the Vignales would be able to be developed in conjunction with the base models. So along came the Focus and Fiesta Vignale, but it appears in reality not much had changed. Quality issues still persisted, and they were simply too expensive. After accounting for just 4% of Focus sales, the Vignale trim was quietly dropped for that car in 2021. Still could be worse. Looking at the Focus estate, the Vignale accounted for just 2% of sales. And shortly the rest would follow. Of course, the Mondeo and Fiesta would bow out of production in all forms, but Vignale has disappeared from the price lists of every other Ford in the time since. By 2024, every trace of it had gone, even in its watered down form as purely a trim level, as it did become. Surely not helping matters was the fact some owners described their experience of those special Vignale lounges as being akin to having a curtain drawn around your hospital bed. Ouch. So I think we can pretty much conclude that Vignale was a failure. As for why, we've talked about the product itself, but what about everything else? Because while the cars were not completely convincing, I don't think that was the main issue at all. And nor even was the price. With PCP deals, the Vignale was barely any more expensive than the vanilla Ford models on a monthly basis. I think the main problem was Ford mistiming the market. Here in the UK, the trim level of your Ford was used to determine what rung you were on the corporate ladder, as a barometer of your social standing in the community. Don't you just love the British class system? But unfortunately, Vignale was about 40 years too late to that school of thinking. The average modern buyer is concerned with badge above all else. They'd sooner buy a bottom bin Beamer with blank switches than put a Ford on their driveway. Whether the buying public are right to do so or not is surprisingly not something I'm going to pass judgment on, but that's just the way it is. We're all a bunch of snobs. It's all a matter of image. While the Vignale cars looked smart enough, they were still obviously Fords. It's like dressing someone up in a finely tailored Italian suit, only for that sharp, perfectly crafted silhouette to be ruined by the conspicuous bulge of their ankle monitor. And then there was the problem that the Vignale name didn't mean anything to anyone relevant. A car purchase always falls down when you have to explain what it is. And it falls down even further if you're in the UK and have to correct someone for the umpteenth time that it's not pronounced Vignale. So, there we have it. Ford's luxury sub-brand has been quietly shuffled off, probably not to return ever again. And now they can get back to doing what they do best: desecrating other iconic nameplates from the past. I'm looking at you, Capri.